What's up, everybody? This is Trip.
And I'm Jim.
This is Deadcenter, where we try to conversate, not constant hate, and
get to the point.
And today we got a guest back for the very first time, Jamal Steele.
I'm back again. Hi, guys.
What's going on, man? He's come on today, and we were going to do an episode on this anyway. We're really glad you're here. Jussie Smollett. This is a pretty...
For anyone that's, been living under a rock,
basically,
or doesn't have social media. I mean, if you're an older person, you might not have known about this because you don't watch the show and you don't have social media and you don't get to see all the funny memes that have come out of this fiasco.
Yeah, it's been a couple.
Right. Some tasteful, some not. So. But anyway, so what happened was the 22nd of last month, so January of this year, there was a letter sent to the Empire studio. Empire is the show where Jussie plays Jamal Lyon, the son of one of the two main characters. He is reluctant in his celebrity. Through his mother's help, he, gains respect, cred, etc. Anyway, he plays a gay celebrity and is therefore, constantly bringing up or referencing or tackling social issues in the show. And it's a great show if you haven't seen it. But he had this letter sent to him, and it had a lot of profanity. It was cut out from newspapers and magazines, had white substance, and it turns out it was Tylenol. So harmless letter, but a lot of rhetoric. And then about a week later, 2 a.m. in Chicago on the 29th of last month, he was attacked by two gentlemen. They were apparently yelling obscenities, threw a noose around his neck, saying this is MAGA country, get out, throwing the N-word around, things like that. And then fast forward another week or so after he's been all over the media is not quite using clarifying diction, but at the same time, he's out there, he's telling the story. People are kind of eventually picking sides as far as, this is horrible or this is a hoax. And then eventually, it comes out that these two gentlemen were African-American. They were Nigerian brothers.
Now, did he initially say that they were white men that did it?
Yes.
Yeah, that was... Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, even if he didn't directly say it, which I think he did.
Obviously, it's implied, but if he
Right.
didn't directly say it, then that leads more to him still being able to maintain his innocence.
Right.
But if... Anyways, keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're getting down to, where we are now.
Right.
There's investigators were brought in, federal investigators were brought in, the FBI, and they've found the two gentlemen. They're acquaintances of him, and it's played out where now it is looking as if there's evidence pointing that this was orchestrated to help increase the value of his name because he was dissatisfied with his salary. Mm-hmm. These are the facts. These are what we know so far. This is what's been put out there for all of us to absorb. And opinions are everywhere on it.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Can't turn on the internet without looking for it.
Mm-hmm.
Not at all. So, my initial stance on this when everything first happened was this happened to him. Like, I was adamant about the fact of this is a situation that happens to black people as well as black people within the LGBTQ community on a consistent basis. Mm-hmm. And as time goes on, I'm still pretty adamant about him being attacked, but facts that are being brought into the situation by the Chicago Police Department.
Right, because I don't know if you said this, but he's been charged and arrested.
Yes, he's been charged with
filing a false police report.
Yep.
Right.
With disorderly conduct for.
And they're looking to charge him with, sending threatening package in the mail with, a questionable substance at the time, even though it turns out it was just Tylenol. They're trying to hit him with the.
So now,
federal.
actually, the federal charge that they're trying to hit him with is mail fraud.
Okay.
Because of the fact that you sent this package saying it was one thing, but now we're trying to charge you with this to prove that you were the one who actually sent this falsifying letter.
Right.
So
and the expenses have gotten him in trouble so far. I mean,
right.
that's
there's a paper
evidence.
there's a paper trail.
So there's probably a charge as far as the letter being sent.
And there's
Exactly.
and that's the big the big deal. That's what that's pretty much why everybody's hopped on the Jesse's lying train. Left, right, black, white, anybody watching it. I mean, Charles Barkley was dogging him out on the NBA Tonight Show last night.
And he should be the last person to do so.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, you ain't lying about that.
But
Shaq's a cop. Shaq's a cop, or has been a cop.
Shaq is an honorary Broward County sheriff.
Yeah. He was there laughing it up, too.
Yeah. He was. The point is, there's a paper trail now. It's just getting harder and harder for Jesse to maintain his innocence. And if he did this, first of all, the fact that we're today somewhere where somebody thinks that doing something like this, creating a situation where he was a victim of a hate crime in order to further his own societal position is in and of itself a problem.
Right.
I don't think that that's right or fair. It's one thing to believe somebody, but to hold them on a pedestal because of this, it just doesn't seem in such a way for them to use this as a currency almost. You know what I mean? First of all, that's just crazy to me, right? Especially when so much progress has been trying to be made within the black and the LGBTQ community, right? You're doing this, and it seems like, look, I'm not black or LGBT, but it seems like a slap in the face.
No. Okay, so first off, this actual incident itself, if this is an incident where it is proven that this is something that he did, yes, it is definitely, it's a definite slap in the face. It being a setback, I'm not too 100% particularly sure about that. And the reason being is because there have been countless other incidents like this that have happened within the white community. Susan Smith.
Right,
Susan Smith takes her car with her 2 children, drives it into the ocean, and then the next thing we all know, hey guys, this black guy robbed me of my car and my babies are in it. And then she comes out and states that this isn't a situation that the black guy did. I did this. But not too many people came out and said, oh man, this is a black eye on the white community, in particular with white women. My thing is that, does it make it a little bit harder for black people or black LGBTQ people? Yes, only if this is a situation only for people who are looking for things to put a label on. Basically what I'm saying is that if you're going to use Jussie Smollett's situation as the end-all, know-all for why you're not going to believe if I get attacked by someone, it wasn't going to be Jussie's situation. It was going to be another situation.
Right. You weren't going to believe it in the first place. And those people are right now saying, they said from the jump they didn't believe it. Right? And
so anyone that feels, validated by the fact that this could be a hoax orchestrated by him.
Ann Coulter did say on Twitter, and she said this yesterday on Twitter.
No.
Ann Coulter did say the reason that Jussie Smollett's situation is a hoax is because other attacks have been hoaxes anyway. Ugh. Racism is a hoax anyway.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah. It's out.
It's
on
Dude,
Twitter.
I don't know if you've seen
Holy sh!
Who's the black conservative with the Jesse Allen something?
Oh,
the short little obnoxious guy.
Jesse Peterson.
No,
he's got the White House over his shoulder on all of his things.
He calls Trump the Great White Hope. He's from Alabama, born on an old plantation, like what was a plantation before he was born, and he's the.
Are we thinking about the same guy?
I don't. Jesse Lee Peterson. Yeah, Jesse Lee Peterson.
Jesse Lee Peterson.
Yes,
that's it.
Dude is.
Yeah.
Goodness. Yeah. He says racism doesn't exist, bigotry doesn't exist, only evil exists. So therefore, it's not. It's just.
He's worse than Diamond and Silk.
It's the most asinine thing I've ever heard in my life.
We're not thinking of the same person.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Either way,
I have seen him.
But I guess the point I'm making, it's like, how can you say racism and bigotry don't exist when Jussie Smollett supposedly, allegedly committed this because of the fact that it's so prevalent today?
Both of them do it for the same purpose. Money.
Well, fair enough. And yeah, they're both doing it for clicks or, pushing their own agenda. I'm just saying,
clout, whatever.
yeah, absolutely. My thing about it is we now, and the reason I say that it seems like a black mark or a spot or a setback even is because we now live in a society where people more and more, the white woman, Susan Smith, the situations consistently occur where people are trying to either get out of something or further their own agenda,
right,
using the victim card, right? And like I said earlier, it's kind of used as a currency.
In this case, it would have been literally used as a social value.
Right, exactly. And my point is, there's a difference between saying, I believe you, and saying, I believe you, and those people over there are racist or homophobes or sexist or just an overall piece of crap if they don't believe you. Right now, anybody who isn't waiting for the facts on certain situations and dogging people out about it takes something like this from them and say, okay, maybe we should wait a second.
And now I can admit that during this particular time of this story that I had moments where I was dogging people out because of disbelief. And to those people, because this will be shared by me on all my social media, so they'll hear this. They'll hear this. So to all those people, I do apologize, and I mean that sincerely. But also at the same time, there were a lot of people who I came at for disbelief because you had disbelief attached with extreme homophobic rhetoric.
Right. And see, in the same way that what I was just saying about attacking somebody if they don't believe is wrong, that is also wrong. It's one thing to say, I do believe you, or I don't believe you. Or I do believe you, and I'm also going to wait for the facts. Or I don't believe you, and I'm also going to wait for the facts. Right. But to act like Ann Coulter, or to act like people who are like, you're a piece of crap. It's we've gotten to a point in society where this is what the radical sides have started to try to take over. Right? And that's where I think we see this, and try to take a step back. And say, you know what? It's okay to believe someone. It's not okay to treat somebody exponentially terrible because of your own beliefs or because they don't believe like you.
Because at the end of the day, I've always stated that I'm going to believe black people until you give me a reason not to.
And that's fair. And you shouldn't use white people or people on the right shouldn't use this as a reason not to believe black people, because guess what? Other than maybe American Indians, black people are the only people in this country where the most oppression and atrocities have been committed against a specific race.
Right.
Over the last 250, 300 years that we've been doing this, hell, before it was America, right? Before we seceded from Britain, you know what I mean?
August of this year will actually mark 400 years that the first Africans were brought over on ships in Jamestown, Virginia, as slaves. We have officially went through 400 years of some sort of racial discrimination or separation within this country.
Well, there's always going to be tribalism, right? No matter what country you're in, no matter what group you're from, there's always, the sense that, and I'm talking about it, even if it's my family and your family and you do something against my family and I'm like, wow, an eye for an eye. Like there's always that sense. But it's different when we live in a society where we're supposed to be the melting pot, right? We're supposed to come full circle. And day in and day out, it's proven that you can say you're not racist, but actions speak louder than words.
Actions definitely speak.
You know what I'm saying?
But back to this, I think that those that are saying that they're going to use this, or anyone that would bring this up if there is another report similar to this, already were skeptics in the start of this fiasco.
Right.
Those like Ann Coulter.
Yeah, you're already skeptics of institutionalized racism to begin with. In the
Right.
first place.
Exactly.
And that's
Exactly.
you're not gonna change those people's minds, even if it turns out that this was orchestrated behind his back, or anything along those lines.
Right.
The only reason that it would be it's to me it's less of a setback because of that fact. The only setback would be that someone used a victim card, if it is the case that allegedly, right? If the victim card was used in this instance to try to further their own personal agenda and wealth, then that is, bar none, one of the biggest slaps in the face that those communities face. But it doesn't have the kind of lashback that you would think outside of Jussie Smollett himself, or maybe even celebrities. I mean, if there's a case where someone goes on a media binge right after an attack, and there's any kind of doubt, there might be those people that would otherwise sit on the fence that would be more skeptical than think believable.
And the other thing that puts me in a position of questioning the situation is there are respected individuals within the African American community that's respected for community activism who know Jussie Smollett or have come across Jussie Smollett and respect him as an activist as well, especially being an activist for LGBTQ rights
Within the black community.
Within the black community, and so it now presents a situation of if you didn't do this for financial gain, but you did this to bring awareness to the plight that blacks and black LGBTQ people go through in the community, it wasn't a real reason for you to do that because you're already respected as a black LGBTQ
Your
activist.
character on the show doesn't know.
Which logically following that would just bring me back to you're trying to further your own personal gain.
My biggest question right now, and this is, I guess, more looking at it, because we've kind of discussed where we sit, but looking at it going forward, a lot of celebrities that have been negatively painted in the limelight have very quickly, especially if it's a slight towards a community like this, have very quickly lost their careers, which would be kind of poetic that he would be if it is the case that he did all of this and it was because he was dissatisfied, wanted to raise his name, and now he can make more money on Empire. If he loses his job on Empire, that would be, and that's what I was getting at before, that would actually be a big setback for not only the black community but LGBTQ community within the black community because of what his character on the show does and represents. Not just what he does outside of that, because he could still do that to an extent.
Well,
but
just the diversity on the show as far as the characters are concerned.
The dynamic that he with him and his dad, and getting respect within his family and in the community, that whole thing plays into that, and it's a big, like I said earlier, like he touches on these major issues within the show. It's a well-written show, but it is one of those things where if he loses his job and that character is somehow written out or erased from the show, as we've seen on other shows that are big, where someone does something stupid or otherwise slights a community through social media, they lose their jobs. Like his would be a slight.
Yeah,
his is also
more than any of the rest of them.
His is also a racially charged situation, similar to any of the other ones that were on the other side. Right.
Roseanne lost her show.
Perfect example.
Right, but it wasn't, her character didn't represent anything. She wasn't a figure representing these social injustices and how to go back healing them.
Right.
His character, outside the person himself,
his character represented that. And so, I mean, there have been reports reports came out yesterday that he's written out of the final 2 episodes of this season, which those are the episodes that we're at now for the season. So yeah, he's suspended. He's out of the last 2 episodes of the season. And Fox has already stated that they are looking at this case very closely to determine what his long-term situation.
How do we
situation
feel
is.
about redemption? Like that's my next question. That would be the next logical question. It's like,
I approach this as we redeem the individual if the individual looks at the situation as they've done something wrong.
acknowledges their own.
Acknowledge your mistakes. If it is proven beyond a reasonable doubt that this is something that you've done.
The thing that comes to mind is Liam Neeson.
Mm-hmm.
You know, where he admits 30 years ago that a friend of his was, raped by a black man, and for a week he had these racist hatred in his heart, wanted a black person to provoke him so he could have a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
Like
Just super, he admits, it was racist.
His actual
it
words
was
were
hate-filled, yeah.
His actual words were, I asked the person who it was that did this attack. She said it was a black man. I went out looking for someone black, and I'm being nice in how I said that, but I'm looking for someone black.
He wanted somebody to provoke him
to attack. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, he also.
That's what therapy's for, man.
Right. Well, he came out. He's like, I know it was wrong. I got a hold of myself a week later, and honestly, if it was an Italian guy, if it was a Hispanic guy, whatever, I would have been the same way towards that. It was a black person at the time, though.
And we have to. That's the thing. We have to look at this from a place of. We have to look at this from a place of transformative justice, and we have to look at this from a place of restorative justice.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel that you have some sort of value to the community that you want to help, i.e. Liam Neeson may be feeling that he has some sort of value to helping the plight of the African American community, okay, that's wonderful, that's cool. You gotta lay back for a little bit, and you have to lay back for a little bit, and you have to put yourself in a position of wanting to be taught as to why what you said and what you wanted to do was extremely problematic.
Well, I mean, even if he didn't think he had anything, I mean, he's a freaking actor. He does Taken movies and movies where he's got to be a badass on screen. Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't necessarily have anything to add to the community other than his platform, right? Other than being able to say that. Mm-hmm. But just it seems like, being able to come in and say, I was wrong. Let me apologize. Let me do what I need to do in order to make this right. Mm-hmm. It seems like acknowledging that he's doing that and trying to make up for it, trying to, because if somebody's had a feeling like that in the past, they have to feel comfortable with admitting it, right? So they can have that uncomfortable conversation that he had with Robin Roberts and move forward.
Let's do a different example, because Liam Neeson was coming forward about something that he felt 30 years ago, right?
Right.
So technically speaking,
right, but we see a lot of these politicians right now that are going through the same type of thing.
So a better example would be the governor of Virginia.
Yes. Ralph Northam.
And I propose the question.
The blackface.
If Jesse Smollett is proven to have orchestrated this whole thing, if it's the worst case scenario,
right?
If he is punished by losing his job, does the governor therefore also deserve to lose his job? And if not one, and therefore one or the other, why so? Because as far as redemption goes, as a public figure, stepping down's a big thing to do. Him losing his career would be the equivalent.
Let me first off, before I answer that, and I'll let Jamal get the last word on it, but first and foremost, I'm not black. I'm not somebody who knows or can honestly say, I know what it feels like to be, prejudice held towards me, and that's obviously a position of privilege, and I acknowledge that. And with that being said, if somebody does something wrong to me or to my family, or, whether it's yesterday or 10 years ago, if they come to me and say, I did something wrong, I'm sorry, I need to atone for that. I don't think that means that person should lose their life. I don't think that means that person should lose their socioeconomic status, as long as they're trying to make amends for something wrong they did.
So here's where the situation gets into Jussie losing his acting job on Empire for falsifying a police report versus Governor Ralph Northam no longer being the governor of Virginia for wearing blackface in 1984 at a Michael Jackson party. Yeah, okay.
It's just another version of the party we all know exists in college.
You now are in a position to where policy and initiative is being written in your state for the citizens of your state.
But he's a representative.
If policy and initiative is being written for African Americans in your state and it comes across, I'm now questioning whether you're going to look out for the betterment of my people, because you've done things in the past that have been pretty
questionable, at the very least.
in regards to how you feel about African Americans. Because let's be totally and completely honest. You can't sit here and you can't tell me that a institution that was built in the 1860s and 1880s, blackface, you wore it in 1984, and you can't sit in 2019 and tell me you didn't know why blackface has such a damning existence on the African American community in 2019. Or you didn't know why it has such a damning
there's a
space in 1980. So now in 2000, so now for you to say that in 2019 that you don't understand the significance of blackface to the African American community, you didn't understand that in 1984, now you're lying. And now I feel like,
well, I think there's a lot of white people who don't attribute, dressing up as Michael Jackson in the 80s to Jim Crow blackface. Like Gucci, like Gucci just did with that is a complete. That's a,
I've seen individuals.
Yeah,
I've seen individuals.
Absolutely.
I've seen individuals do Michael Jackson costumes for Halloween, and we want to do Michael Jackson before the lightning and the vitiligo took place, when he was Thriller and Billie Jean Michael Jackson, as I like to call him, and did not in any way, shape, form, or fashion darken their skin.
He wore a lot of really iconic clothes.
Right.
One of my favorite Halloween costumes that a buddy of mine did, and he wasn't white, he was Hispanic, but he wasn't near dark enough to pull off Eddie Murphy. But he found in a thrift shop, it wasn't actual latex, but he found what looked like raw.
Yeah,
the raw outfit.
Yeah, if you don't know what that is, you should just stop. You know what I mean? That's iconic.
Yeah, he found this one piece of it. It was meant for a woman, and it was, he had to do stuff to the sleeves, but it was and it was spot on. He did not have to darken his skin to do it.
Yeah, I think there's a level of ignorance with white people, sheltered white people, white people that because they didn't go through a certain, and that doesn't mean that they should you didn't know, it's still, if you didn't know, you should educate yourself. But I think there's a level of ignorance, and I think the fact that his policy initiatives, his coming forward and saying, that wasn't even me in the picture, but I did that in the past at one point, and I'm sorry.
He did not handle it well.
And see, that was the other issue for me. So Friday, you say, that's me, I apologize. let's
that was a whole mess.
let's now get to a place where we can do what we have to do as a state. And then the very next day, no, that really wasn't me, and I don't think that's me. I don't think either one of them is me in that picture.
Not to mention, all that does is point to, because he said, "Oh no, I admit to this one time I might have done it." And it's like, well, if that is you, that means now you've done it twice.
Right. See, I must be thinking of the lieutenant governor is the one who was like
Sexual allegations.
No, who was the one that was like he was supposed to be next in line after the sexual allegations?
So
and he's like, you know what? I went to a party and did it once.
So we get to Northam. So after Northam is Fairfax, sexual allegations. After Fairfax is the Attorney General.
Okay.
And the Attorney General said, "Yep, I did it in '84."
Okay, you're right. Yep, that's what.
So then
that's
after the
I'm
Attorney
referring to
General, after the Attorney General is the Speaker of, is the Majority Leader of the Virginia State House, who is Republican. So now the first three that we dealt with was Democrat. Now we get to the Speaker of the Virginia State House, who is Republican, and he's an editor of a college yearbook, of his college yearbook back in the '60s, where everybody in the college yearbook was wearing blackface.
Oh my goodness.
Freaking white people.
Virginia, though. You dig in the South, you're going to find it.
And that's kind of
my point was, does this guy deserve to be judged by the voters at the end of his term, or does he deserve to step down and be replaced?
No, you have
in the same way, does Jussie Smollett keep his job until there's actually implications in the as far as the monetary value of the show? Or does he get the axe now preemptively to serve a sentence?
I think, if I'm getting you correct, I think what you're saying is that Jussie Smollett, he's doing a job, right?
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't apologize, down the road, he can more than likely come back from it.
Right.
Ralph Northam, these people that we just named off, right, are in positions of power. And if even one policy idea put forward is done with the intent of hurting somebody from a specific community, then that gives it enough credence for them to step down, or they should, or the recommendation of them stepping down.
So if we keep Governor Northam in as the governor of Virginia, and there's a policy that's put in place that exponentially destroys, in some way, shape, form, or fashion, the African American community, immediately every leader in the African American community in the state of Virginia are going to say blackface in the 80s. We told you, and now look what just happened.
Man, this has been a big conversation.
Another difference is I meant to make this point when I made the initial analogy, but another difference is this is I guess a slap in the face. If it is the case that he did this, it is a slap in the face to a community in which he's a member. So I guess it would really be up to the members of the community.
Look, if he did this, it's some manipulative crap, and I just
turning victim for privilege, it hurts. That's why it's a slap in the face. I don't think that this is any more negative for anyone else outside of this case, because the people that were going to be convinced that future attacks are in doubt because of this were already going to doubt those attacks.
I agree. This has been a great conversation, fellas. And I'm sure more people are going to have it. But I don't know. I think all the
Let
points...
us know what you think in the comments.
Absolutely.
Yo.
Let us know. Thank you, Jamal.
Of course.
And as always, I'm Trip.
And I'm Jim.
And this is Deadcenter, where we try to conversate, not constant hate, and get to the
point.
Love y'all. See y'all next time.
Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair, and I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in